I've always kind of hated Dark Souls, and Bloodborne, and Elden Ring. Hear me out for a second. Okay, now before you take to the comments to defend 2022 Game of the Year Elden Ring and its predecessors, and Souls-like games in general, I know they're good games. I just hate playing them.
If that was good, if that was bad, yep, we're dead. We're mega dead, okay.
I'm not very good at them either, but that's not the point of this video. But something about the world building has always been kind of intriguing to me, despite not really knowing too much about it. It just always seemed very interesting to kind of see screenshots and gameplay and just marvel at how good everything looks. I've always absolutely loved medieval fantasy. Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite works of all time. I'm an avid Elder Scrolls fan, and I love playing Dungeons and Dragons. However, every time I attempted to play a Souls game, the main thing that stopped me was your complete lack of skill? No, it was how grim and dark the settings were. But then something happened. I've always known about dark fantasy. I mean, I watched stuff like The Dark Crystal as a kid. I love the Hellboy comics, which I didn't even know those count, and I really like horror media and general medieval fantasy. Then these edits started coming out. I'm not a fan of the fact that 99% of them are made with AI, but they did pique my interest. And the more interested I became, the more I started to question, why do I really love the look of dark fantasy but can't play dark fantasy games? And I narrowed the answer down to, it was the way I was experiencing it. When I play video games, I generally like a more Elder Scrolls approach, where I can interact, trade with, and help people in these well-built cities and towns and really get into the roleplay of my character without wanting to absolutely die every time I played it. So how do you get into a dark fantasy setting without playing it in a video game? As a content creator, my first thought was I should make one. I mentioned earlier that I love playing D&D. I'm not a pro at it or anything, but I've always enjoyed being the dungeon master and crafting a story for people to play in. The things I've made previously were always pretty comedic, but I tried my best to weave in interesting plot points, creatures, and locations. But somewhat more recently, I ran a darker, Lovecraftian-inspired story using Call of Cthulhu 7th edition, and I absolutely loved it. The Yogscast Call of Cthulhu campaigns were actually my first introduction to real ttrpgs, and ever since it's been one of my favorite systems and genres to build a story around. So I dipped my toes into something darker and somewhat grittier with that, but I still yearned to run a medieval fantasy. And that led to what might be my most intricate creative project yet, the Greyveil, my first proper world building project. The Greyveil is a decaying world, at least it is in the 9th era, where the first campaign takes place through the Greyveil. This is in stark contrast to basically everything I've made before. It's one of the districts of hell, left to rot after an unknown event through the balance of the world into chaos and eventually into decay. However, the residents of the Greyveil wouldn't know that, most of them having lived there for generations, just surviving and getting by without much care for the history of the lands that they cultivate. But it is dangerous here, more so than on Viridun, what we would call Earth. There are demons which lie in waiting, ready to make cursed deals in exchange for unwilling souls. Eldritch horrors slumber, amassing cults who wish to wake them. The undead remain restless, caves are filled with nameless things, and travelers are in short supply. Travelers being the name given to those venturing to the Greyveil naturally, usually by sea. Yes, that's right, you can actually travel here. From the shores of the Delmarch, an eternally storming desert, to the port of Cladwin Castle, the last kingdom of men in the Falor Plains. But there are other, more ancient ways to enter this district of the damned. Unlike Pandemonium, Greyveil can occasionally sport clear sunlit skies, plentiful game for hunting, and beautiful lavender sunsets amongst the ancient ruins that are dotted across the land. And the denizens of the Grey make use of this when they can, but they are in desperate need of real hope. This world I'm creating is something I would hate playing in a video game, being generally far too grim, gritty, and desolate on the surface. But like I said, this isn't a true hellscape like Pandemonium in its prime. It's teeming with life, strange locations to explore, and ancient mysteries. But when it comes to video games, I think I'm just too Skyrim-pilled. I love playing in a thriving world, but when I'm hyperfixating on lore, that's not what I turn to. I'm not usually learning about how the marketplaces that are filled with people work. I'm down in the depths of the ancient Dwemer ruins, roaming empty halls, and reading about the inner workings of the automatons. When I'm learning about something like The Lord of the Rings, I want to walk through the wastes of long-forgotten civilizations and learn about relics forged in a better time. Even thinking of something a little more whimsical, like Adventure Time, for example. I love learning about the fall of humanity and knowing that the land of Oo is really this post-apocalyptic wasteland. I love settings like this, settings that are moldy and dead and decaying, suffering from the effects of bygone historical events. I took the idea of moldy and dead worlds from an amazing YouTube channel called The Curious Archive, by the way. I highly recommend their videos, especially if you're doing world building. But make no mistake, there are plenty of new adventures to be had for travelers who seek it. Alright, now I have to confess, I knew I wanted to start a world building project, and I knew I wanted to get into the dark fantasy genre. But as an amateur game master for D&D 5e and Call of Cthulhu 7e, I wanted something of my own. This world is actually being developed in tangent with the new ttrpg system I'm developing, the Forlorn Codex. Much like the Greyveil, the Forlorn Codex is very much work in progress, and I hope to continue working on it as time goes on, and hopefully you continue to follow my progress. For a quick summary, the Forlorn Codex is a D100 system where you have to roll under your attribute and skill scores in order to succeed, and there are multiple skill trees for combat and crafting. Exploring a more classless system like this with skill trees has been so much fun, and I can't wait to show you more of it. Possibly in future videos if you're interested. I love giving you a little insight into the Greyveil, and I want to keep giving you more until maybe one day we can get something official going, like an art book or something similar like that. If you want to see more of this world I'm creating, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps out the channel a whole bunch, and it lets me know that you're interested. I do plan on attempting some custom art here and there for the lands and creatures that I add into this world, and I also want to give you access to the Forlorn Codex First Edition once it's complete. However, that's all the time I have for now. If you're new to the channel, my name is Moxharian. I really want to keep doing these world building videos, so like I said, please let me know if you're interested in the comments, because I really want to get into it. I think it could be a really fun project. But if you're not new to the channel, this is very, very different from what I've usually been doing. But I figured we've been a bit of a horror gaming channel for a while, and this is like a dark fantasy tabletop role-playing game. All the key elements are in there, so it's not too far off, I guess. But again, please let me know if you want me to continue. I would love to, but also let me know if this is maybe more fitting for a separate channel. Maybe it could have its whole own thing. I really like the idea of having it here though, and kind of branching out into new things that are still fitting within the channel's realm. You can really help me decide by going down below and becoming a member. It helps out so much. I actually have some new member stuff coming up that I'm really excited to show off. You also get to see these videos a couple days early, which is really cool. But in the meantime, I just posted my Exploring FNAF's Environments Part 2 video, which covers FNAF 4 all the way up to Security Breach. Super happy on how it came out. One of my favorite videos to work on. But yeah, that's gonna be just about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this. Stay tuned for more, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.